What's going on, guys? So this is going to be a very special video because I'm at a very special place, and a place that I actually respect deeply, and that is Brinkley HQ, where these absolutely beautiful Brinkley RVs are manufactured. And the reason why I love where I'm at so much is because I've seen so much innovation. But that said, it doesn't mean that there's not room for improvement, that, you know, some of the things people fear about RVs might be true in some senses, right? So what is a brand like Brinkley doing about it? Today, I'm gonna have a special guest with me, and I'm actually gonna ask him some pretty hard questions, and I'm gonna see how he responds. Hang tight, I'll be right back. What's going on, Nate?
Hey, how's it going, JD?
Hey, I'm doing well. And I literally walked up to Nate while he's talking to a group of people, and I said, buddy, I want to throw some hard questions at you. We're not scripted for this. He has no idea what I'm going to ask him.
True.
But I'm going to rely on the fact that you've always been very honest and open about just about everything. I mean, he actually invited me up here for a separate trip that we'll probably go on for the sole purpose of criticizing your production factory. Walk through it and tell us what we're doing wrong. That's how you told me to do it.
Oh yeah.
And there has to be a motive behind that. And I feel like the motive is to make the best product possible.
It is.
All right, so I love that. But that said, there are still people that have questions. So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions.
Sure.
And let's make this as raw and unscripted as possible, of course.
All right.
So first, let's talk about frames. Frame flex, frame failure, cracked frames, all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So it exists. There are customers that have had serious frame issues. Frames have failed. I don't know where to point blame. I'm not gonna say it's the owner. I'm not gonna say it's the manufacturer. I'm gonna say frames have failed.
Yeah.
What is Brinkley doing differently, and how can you help ensure a Brinkley owner that they're not gonna experience that?
Yeah, great question. And, you know, we talk pretty openly about this, but I'll just give you the real skinny on what we do and why we haven't had any issues. So first and foremost, we design all of our chassis. So we design them in a program called SolidWorks. It's full 3D.
It's an engineering program, yeah.
We spec the gauges, we spec even the powder coat, everything. We subcontract our design to Lippert Components. Lippert builds the chassis for us. It gives it back to us, and we do all the validation, all the testing, everything ourselves. Actually, we exceed a 10% safety factor at this point. We used to test at 10%. So let's say big unit, 3950 GVWR 23.5. We're sending those to the track at about 27,000 pounds.
Okay.
We'll also front load the unit to add a ton of pressure. Usually it's above 6,500, 6,700 in there. So most extreme case possible, to really validate the unit. And if we have a failure, we retest. And we spend an incredible amount of money. We typically have, depending on what we're doing for all the brands, 2 to 5 units at the track a month. And we're constantly doing durability testing. But I think, kind of like the auto manufacturers, until you get out there and you push it to the max and see what it takes to break it, it's hard to say if it's really going to hold up.
Yeah.
A high percentage of our customers, just shy of 50%, full-time. So we already have the most extreme clientele with the most wear and tear.
I think the average is what, 5 to 10% for most manufacturers, right?
Probably, like in our past life, you know, we were above 20%. We've never seen in the 40s, you know, at all. So yeah, I mean, that's what we do. Now there's a lot more that goes into it. There's a lot of gauges that are thicker. There's tube sizes that are thicker. You know, we don't run any drop frame chassis at all. We run everything straight rail on the big. So there's a lot of like inherent design tweaks too. But you know, we've had fiberglass wall cracks. We've had different things happen. We've never had a frame failure. So I'm super proud to say that. So I think what we're doing is working, but it's working because we've proven that it will work.
Yeah,
so,
Let's move to another area, because I think I'm going to get a copyright strike with the music if I'm not careful. Okay, so we've moved to a semi-quieter spot. Music's on the other side over here, and this is a little bit more relaxed too.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so following up with that question, you know, I'm glad you said that you have experienced, you know, sidewall cracking, things like that. This stuff is in my opinion, if you sell enough units, you are going to have something eventually that's going to expose some type of an issue that you have to look into, right?
Yeah, we actually, it started as an adhesion issue, and as we've continued to tweak stuff, we know why we've had the issue and we haven't in the past. We've never had chassis this rigid that put so much pressure into the walls, in combination with the unit sizes that we're building now, 46 feet.
Yeah.
And, it's just brought something out of the woodwork. But, the one thing that I'm proud of our company is we've been very transparent about the issue. We've stood behind the units. And, we've committed to our customers that if there is an issue, that Brinkley's going to stand behind it.
Let's just use the Model I as an example. A 27-foot Model I, what I've seen weighs more by several thousand pounds than most other manufacturers' 30-foot travel trailers. Is that primarily in the frame, or is it just a combination of everything?
It's everything. It is. And, we know we're heavy. We know how to build quality. We don't know how to build light without adding a lot of money and cost. Yeah. So, Brinkley's are already more expensive than the norm, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But it could be everything from your wall panel. For instance, we run everything in 4/7. It's more rigid. But when you push on our walls, they don't go in like a lot of people run 3/7. We stuff all of our tubes. We do run a heavier chassis. There's just a lot that goes into it, but I guess for us, we would rather put the money in on the front end and have less issues later.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. One of the negative byproducts is that our units are heavier than the norm.
And more expensive typically.
And more expensive, yeah. And some of that is material. I'll tell you, a big part of it is labor, and we don't talk about this. Frankly, we should probably talk about it more. But if you take a look at like one of our past plants, let's say it was a mid-profile fifth wheel, we may run 28, 30 a day. Let's say you had 200 guys. Okay. Well, Model Z is a mid-pro fifth wheel. We have about 200 guys in the plant. We run 16.
Oh yeah. Much slower pace then.
Much slower pace. We had to get the quality. We had to slow the whole process down. So each unit, if you look at the hours we have invested, net profit, we actually make less than we used to. It's going somewhere. It's going into the product. Okay.
So another question I have, and I want to stick a little bit longer on the frame topic because I think this is the crux of a lot of people's hatred towards RVs in general, right?
Yeah.
Because of this perception of the frame. So I want to dive into it in a way that nobody can watch this video and say you didn't beat this horse to death. So when I interviewed Lippert, I asked them a very pointed question. I said, who designs the frame for the customer? Well, sometimes the customers have their own engineering resources. They do it themselves. Sometimes they outsource it. Sometimes they outsource it to Lippert to do it.
True. I think Lippert will build the OEMs what they ask for at the price point they ask for. So, if you don't want to have issues and you want to spend the money, there's a way to do it. In a lot of cases, if you don't have the engineering resources, they have engineering resources available to help you with that design. For us personally, we don't like there to be a middleman. We like to do everything ourselves, so there's, we're getting all the data full feed.
Yeah.
But a smaller manufacturer or someone could leverage their engineering department. I think in a lot of cases, they're probably going to spec heavier gauges and things that people normally would. They're going to be heavier, probably more expensive. So I don't know, that people like that necessarily.
The next question I ask them is, does Lippert always know, once they've produced that frame, how that frame is going to be loaded by the manufacturer? And what I mean by that is when you spec your frame out, whether you do it or whether they do it, is there an assumption that, okay, it meets a certain gross vehicle weight rating and it's not going to go over that? And I'm not talking about Brinkley specifically here, but just from an industry in general, are you familiar with manufacturers and the manufacturing side of manufacturers that traditionally will overload a frame that they spec'd out from Lippert? Is that something that you've seen before?
Yeah, I think since all the issues, they've tightened up their specs, everything from slide locations to, you know, they expect you to be really transparent as far as how you're loading it and what the unit weights are. So I would say it's better now, but years back, I think it was a lot looser. I think they left a lot of that to the OEMs to handle.
Because it's kind of thing, if you order a frame, they don't know what you do with that frame once you get it, right? They're not going to have any idea of actually seeing, okay, well, they brought the frame, it's been delivered.
No,
what
they
are
really
you
don't.
putting on that frame? So as much as there could be, or there potentially could be some level of oversight, it then becomes like, are they intruding into your business to figure out what you're doing? So it's incumbent on you as a manufacturer to order your frame to meet the demand you're going to put on it, right?
Yeah, and honestly, it's our responsibility. Yeah.
The other side of this was a question related to how and where to load a unit. And I've kind of been an advocate for OEMs marking areas of the RV with maximum payload capacities in those specific areas. Because an example of that is if you take a Model G, and let's say it has 4,000 pounds of cargo carrying capacity, if you don't say, even if it's common sense that that is basically spread out, well, what's to say someone's not going to try to fit a Prius in the underbelly storage compartment of it because it's under 4,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And is that a smart way to load your RV? And I'm using that as an example, but a lot of people will put extreme battery builds inside of compartments, and you know it's over several thousand pounds, but there's nothing on an RV that says don't overload the basement storage to over 1,000 pounds. And do you feel that some responsibility from a manufacturer exists there to help guide people on what is the proper way to load but not overload certain parts of the RV?
Yeah, well, we could do it. So we actually have testing specs. Now, typically, kind of like we were talking about before, we'll load it worst case, and we've seen some pretty extreme cases come into the shop. Like, one guy had a Cobalt toolbox across the front, and his hitch weight was over 5,500 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was very extreme. It was borderline too much for his F450, but we could put in. I think. If you were going to load it the best, like one thing that we do sometimes is we'll try to load it like the entire unit like a customer when we send it to the track. So for instance, like in a pantry, we'll put 300 pounds. On shelves, we'll put 50. And we totally load the unit for the test. From like a towing standpoint, if you have the right truck, you don't feel much of a difference.
Yeah.
But for the longevity of the unit, it's definitely going to be better for it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you put massive amounts of weight up front, there's so much pressure on that front end. Typically there's a bed slide up there, and you're also putting a ton of load on your truck. Yeah. So the more that you can spread that out, the better the unit's going to hold up over time. And if it's something you're planning on owning for a long time, we would suggest you spread it out.
Yeah, and that's kind of the challenge though. When you like your customer you're talking about that had that toolbox up front, you would argue to say that this person probably understands that there's logic behind don't put too much weight.
He had his garage empty. Our recommendation: go get a golf cart.
Yeah, go
get a golf cart and balance some of that. It's use the leverage of the unit to have it ride better. Yeah. So now. But we could do recommendations. I mean, absolutely.
I feel as if it would clarify things for people. It would make it simple to go, if you put, let's say 500 pound max or 1,000 pound, whatever you feel the basement storage area can hold safely, it would at least be a visual reminder to people that maybe I need to take some stuff out of here. Maybe this battery build that I'm considering might need to be spread out. Maybe I need to think of a different area to put this stuff, or maybe just reconsider my design completely. Because again, people don't really understand the concept sometimes of seeing 3,200 pounds cargo carrying capacity. It doesn't say where I have to put it, so I'm just going to put it smack dab in the middle of my basement storage or off the back of it, which can cause other problems. So just something to think about there. Another one.
Loading recommendations.
Exactly,
Yeah.
loading recommendations, even if it's a placard that they're given.
No, that's a good one.
Let's talk about a big one that's also important. We're talking about sidewall construction, attachment methods, all of this stuff that played into everything that was going on. I'm sure you probably knew about all the conversations and, you know, properly attaching sidewalls to the upper deck area and all of this stuff. We in the engineering side, we use a term called monocoque construction. The whole structure creates the structure. Semi-trailers are like that. That's what I was told multiple times by the folks over at Lippert whenever we were talking about the construction of an RV. You've been in this industry for a long time. You've worked for previous manufacturers. How important truly is the overall construction of the sidewall front cap roof when it comes to making the frame rigid?
Very, very. And we've learned a lot. I mean, we've learned a lot through testing. We've learned a lot trying to engineer the problems out of our units from day one. But none of the structure is made to support the weight of the unit and the rigors of the road by itself. So they have to work together. But I mean, it starts from setting the wall the right way, where you have the right preload and it's not stressing the wall. Mm-hmm. It starts with having the right camber in the chassis. You know, we measure every single frame to make sure the camber's right before we even touch it. Mm-hmm. Now, we measure it after it gets acclimated to room temperature. There's a whole process, but you know, it starts with that level of detail. You have to have the right fasteners. You have to have the right adhesive. The fasteners need to be put in a specific order. There's certain ones you have to pre-drill. There's so much that goes into it, but if you do it right, and your chassis is supported by your wall structure, which is supported by your front cage, and then tied together with your roof, then the unit's working together, and that's how it should be.
Okay, so now that we've kind of corroborated the answer, I'm going to throw the challenge at you. And this is the challenge that people leave in a comment section, because everyone, you know, they for the most part have an idea that makes sense, but then they start thinking, well, how can this jinky looking aluminum sidewall with lag bolts and adhesive, why on earth, and they think it's a BS answer, why on earth can any of this stuff actually make a difference in terms of the strength of the RV? Because these sidewalls are foam, aluminum caged, it's not steel, it's all lightweight materials. Whenever you attach all of that to the frame, how on earth does that even have the remote chance of holding an RV structure together?
Yeah, well, there's no easy answer. It's a lot of little things that you do to make it all work. But you know, we could just start with the aluminum itself. I mean, yes, lightweight aluminum, you know, you could build a terribly designed wall, or you could have a highly engineered wall that you validate and that you double weld, and then in high pressure load areas, you know, we sand all the tubes down for maximum adhesion. We treat the tubes for maximum adhesion. In critical attachment areas, we stuff with composite to make sure that, you know, we used to use wood everywhere. Well, the problem is if you're running a big lag into a piece of wood, you can split it out. Yeah. And that would be a critical attachment area. You know, we use adhesive between the wall and the chassis to make sure that there's no vibration that could ever back a lag out. When we screw from the bottom, we don't use a case hardened number 10, we use a Spax structural screw. I mean, there's just things that you have to do to set that wall up for success. Yeah. And you have to be very intentional about how you do it and how you attach it in what order so it loads the frame properly. So when you hook it on to a truck, it's not putting stress on the wall, it's preloaded right. Yeah. And there's a ton that goes into it. And I know I keep bringing up this testing thing, but then you can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't go validate it with serious testing, like 100,000 mile equivalency type tests, then you don't know. And I went camping in northern Michigan up by Traverse City a few weeks ago. I towed up a 3950. That thing's been to the track twice. And this is a unit I'm camping in. Yeah. It was in great shape. The thing's a peach. So, I mean, when you can do that and the units are still very functional and campable, then you can feel good about what you're doing.
And I think it's kind of like when you see a house being constructed, when it's all studs, it doesn't take a lot to push that house over. But the minute you attach the OSB, the sheathing to it, which is a thin material, it creates the rigidity. And that rigidity, compounded with all the other areas of rigidity, strength, and attachment, create your superstructure.
All parts of that wall not together would fail. The aluminum would fail. Frankly, the chassis may have some issues without the support of the walls. But once you bond that all together, it's a really strong structure if you do it right.
The next question I have is related to the built in Indiana stereotype. Because there have been some negative perceptions of certain things happening in the industry, there's this perception that things built in Indiana, RVs, you have to go outside of the market for that. What is your perception of being built in Indiana, being built in northern Indiana, the RV mecca of the world where everything is built? Do you think brands that exist outside of this area, like the boutique brands that are still high quality brands, do you think that there's an advantage to being built outside of Indiana versus inside? Now, this is a bit of a loaded question, but what's your take on that?
I think if you live here and you know the market and what it takes to build quality and do what you do, I mean, or do what we do, you may have a different opinion, but I do understand how people could feel that way. And I think one of the things that we've tried to do at Brinkley is restart. And, from day one, what we prided ourselves on was taking a list of our top warranty issues and engineering them out. Another thing that we've done, and I remember for forever, it was just, you're kind of talking about what you wanted this thing to be, but, we have great culture. Brinkley's a great place to work. We take care of our employees. And I think to some degree, you only get the result of, the units can only be as good as how you treat your employees.
Yeah.
And we like seeing our people go home with smiles on their face to go play with their kids. And I think that our industry for the longest time didn't necessarily have the priorities right. They, definitely not how people were treated, not great places to work. Quality wasn't good. I think a lot of that made it to the customer, but it doesn't mean that's who you have to be.
Yeah.
The side of the unit say Brinkley, but it might as well say our name. And we wanted a different feel, starting with our employees here. And I'll tell you, we're on the east side of Goshen for a reason. There's incredible tribal knowledge here and incredible work ethic. And we're a people first company. And you can only build as good a units as good a people you have. And we have great people. So I'm from northern Indiana. I've never lived anywhere else. I don't know. Maybe there's a better place to build it, but we don't know where that is. And I'll tell you, if any of your viewers haven't seen a Brinkley, go get inside one, because you can feel the difference, and it's not lipstick, So I don't think that it has to be outside of Indiana to do what we do.
I think it raises the cost to do business outside of Indiana when everything has to be shipped to you, or you have to produce it yourself at that point. Because
Totally.
I know you have the facilities. You could stand up your own frame manufacturing facility if you wanted to.
We absolutely could.
Does it make sense to do that? And I guess that's a good question I could ask you. Why don't you build your own frames? Because you hear some companies that's what the bragging point is. We build our own frames.
Well, I would say that, there's some vertical integration that we would consider. But I don't feel that would be a good use of our resources. We have a very capable partner in Lippert. We have a lot of units on the road now, over 10,000, and our chassis are solid. Also, our frames come out of a different facility. It's here in Goshen. It's their automated beam line.
Yep.
Everything is sonic welded together. Our holes are lasered. I don't know the total amount of millions that Lippert has in that facility, but I do know it's a contributing factor to our frames being so nice. Mm-hmm. So I think if Lippert ever slipped and we couldn't rely on them, they ever made us really mad, you know, maybe it would be something that we would consider, but we have a good partnership there. You know, I mean, they always pick up the phone when we need them, and I think that they've gotten a bad rap through some of the stuff that's happened, but we value that relationship. So
and that's great, because I've been to that beam processing facility and I've seen what they're doing. It truly is. And again, as long as you're speccing out what you want your frame to be, and you're testing to that, and you're ensuring that that's the quality you're getting, you can't really ask for more, because if there is a failure of that product, it is on you as the manufacturer now, right?
Yeah, I mean, if there was like bad welds, or you know, they were buying subpar steel that failed or something, yeah, would they have a responsibility? But you know, outside of something like that, I mean, I feel good about where we're at with frames. And you can surf the net, you can find any issue we've ever had, it's all out there, and you're not going to see frame problems with us. So I think our resources are better spent somewhere else.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to move on to another topic that is going to be important. Not everybody with the Brinkley is going to be a happy customer. Let's just kind of throw it out there. You sell enough units, somebody's going to have a problem, it's going to piss them off. They're going to have a water leak, they're going to have a frame issue, they're going to have a sidewall issue, they're going to have something, whether it's their fault, whether it's the manufacturer's fault, whether it's an accident that occurred. You see videos where sometimes RVs are undergoing major, let's call surgery, because of a problem. Sidewall material's been removed, a slide out might have to be removed, major surgery going into it, and it's scary. You walk into a repair shop, you see your RV being taken apart. It's almost like seeing your home being taken apart. When you guys are doing service on an RV that you sold someone and it turns out to be major work, I guess a two-part question. One, does it scare your team to do that type of work, which is kind of a weird question to ask, but two, is there ever a point that you feel that you get to and you're just like, we're not going to do anymore, we can't do anything else on this, it's better to either replace it, it's better just to do something else after, of course, an investigation, all that stuff's been done on how something occurs?
No, I mean, our team isn't intimidated by it. I mean, we build them new from the chassis up, and we can take them apart and put them together so they're like new, but our expectation is that, you know, anytime we're doing a repair, a major repair, that at the end of it, it is in like new condition. That is where we're trying to get back to. We can typically determine before we get into it if something else needs to be done. For instance, if the job's too big, or at the end of it, it's not going to be up to customer expectations, or it's not going to be up to our expectations. I mean, we try to look at the units like they're ours. How would we want the repair to be? Sometimes when we get into electrical stuff, that's typically where we have to draw a line. Like we had a recall on a solar charger. In some cases, the damage to the wire harness was significant enough that we didn't feel comfortable. Yeah, could we fix it? Did we feel like it was going to be best for the customer? We didn't. So sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand, but typically on a wall issue or a slide issue like you're talking about, those are ones that we can tackle at a really high level and fix it for the customer in a way that they're not going to have an issue going forward.
Okay.
I think there's also, you know, unfortunately RVs aren't smart like our cars, but you know, we had a unit going to Ohio to the test track where we have all of our sensors on it, right? The transport driver was doing 77 miles an hour, and we had a 7G event on the way to the track. We had damage. We had a MORI drawer get damaged. Sometimes on the road, that's the kind of stuff that happens, and our customers don't even know, like this transport driver, but then they get to a campsite and there's damage to the unit, and they're frustrated with us because it happened. But you know, we also can't, you know, avoid potholes, and stuff happens. And the thing with RVs is they do have earthquakes every time you tow them. Yeah. And I guess all I ask is that trust us to do the right thing. Give us an opportunity to fix it, and we'll be fair with you. I mean, I like to say that we don't hide from our problems. And so just get a hold of us. I mean, This year, I just looked at the stats because we're at our dealer event. We've taken over 44,000 calls in an average hold time of 43 seconds. With an answer rate at 98.7%. So if you need to talk to us, just pick up the phone and we'll work with you. So
and that's an important part of it. And I like what you mentioned, that if you're not getting the help you think, you will eventually get involved.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And that's a big part of it. And you know, I know that there's this perception that senior leadership doesn't ever get involved, and that you have to know somebody or you have to have a YouTube channel. But can you I guess commit to the people that are watching this that you don't have to have a YouTube channel to get a YouTube type experience?
No, I mean, we had a couple, had an issue with the dealership, had some quality issues, threatening litigation. I told the team, hey, let's get them on Teams, let's meet in the morning and let's just talk through this. And they're now in their second Brinkley. They couldn't be happier. But sometimes when you just get face to face and you can talk through the issues, you can find resolution, and that's our goal. And I would say, you know, even a specific Model Z customer with a trailer that had some leak issues we're now friends with. And you know, a lot of these situations, we just need to connect. And so yes, if somebody's gonna run to social or feels like they're to that point, just let me know, let us know, and we'll figure it out. So,
that's very good. No, and I appreciate that. So I appreciate you coming on. I hope the questions I asked were satisfactory to the people that would expect me to ask questions. I know they're not the easiest to answer. I appreciate how candid you always are with an answer. You don't run from them, and that's honestly, that's really amazing, and it's great because we also don't have like a legal resource sitting here making sure that we're asking the right questions. Any final thoughts, anything you'd like to add before we wrap the video up?
No, I mean, I hope people can see, and I appreciate you being here with us, that we're an open book. We're regular people. We're very passionate about the RV business. We love what we do. We genuinely care for our customers, and I hope people can see that. So
no, that's awesome, and I see it. That's the thing. Sometimes as a YouTuber, as a reviewer, people just automatically assume you're always going to say nice things about everything, and the fact is that you don't want to have to say negative things unless you legitimately see a reason to, and I don't really see legitimate reasons in most cases. The only thing I talk to you about is I'm not a fan of thermofoil. I bring that up time and time again. You know that. I talk about it. I'm not a fan of certain things, and I bring it up all the time, and we talk about it. And the cool thing is you're always looking for a solution, which is really cool, and I respect that, because you're not going to love everything, but the closer you get to trying to make everybody happy, the more of a better interaction you're going to have with your customer, they're going to feel they're going to have with you, and the longer term customer they're going to be.
Totally agree.
So I appreciate your time, brothers. Yep. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
And if you guys have any questions for Nate, let me know. Drop them in the comment section. Don't make them rude. Don't make them off-the-wall questions. But ask questions if you're serious about them, and I'll submit them to Nate, and maybe we can do a follow-up and get real
Sounds
questions
great.
that people like.
I'd love to.
That'd be awesome, man.
Yep.
Well, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks again so much for your time.
You're welcome.
If you haven't had a chance, please subscribe to the channel, because I've filmed a bunch of these units out here, and if you want to see what they're doing, you just have to watch YouTube or go out to a dealership and walk around a Brinkley unit. Guys, we'll talk to you again real soon.